Hello and welcome to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. I'm your host, Noah Lobby. Imagine this. It's 1937. The world is a very different place. And soaring above it, a true pioneer, a woman defying expectations and chasing a dream as vast as the sky itself, Amelia Earhart. She wasn't just a pilot. She was a global superstar, a symbol of courage and adventure. But on July 2nd, 1937, during an audacious attempt to circumnavigate the globe, Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, vanished over the vast, unforgiving Pacific Ocean. What happened to them? Did they crash and sink? Were they castaways on a deserted island? Or is there an even more mysterious explanation? Today, we embark on a journey to explore one of history's most captivating and enduring unsolved mysteries, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Before we delve into the mystery of her disappearance, let's get to know the woman herself. Amelia Mary Earhart, born in Atchison, Kansas in 1897, wasn't your typical young woman of the era. She was adventurous, independent, and from a young age, she collected newspaper clippings about women succeeding in male-dominated fields. Her first encounter with an airplane, though, wasn't love at first sight. She described it as a thing of rusty wire and wood. But a 10-minute plane ride in 1920 changed everything. As soon as we left the ground, she said, I knew I myself had to fly. And fly she did. Amelia worked various jobs, from truck driver to photographer, to save up the $1,000 needed for flying lessons. A huge sum back then. She bought her first plane, a bright yellow biplane she nicknamed the Canary, within 6 months. She wasn't just a hobbyist, she was a record breaker. In 1922, she flew the Canary to an altitude of 14,000 feet, a world record for female pilots. In 1928, she gained international fame as the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Though she was a passenger on that flight, she famously said, I was just baggage, like a sack of potatoes. But it ignited a fire in her. The big one came in 1932. Amelia became the first woman to fly solo nonstop across the Atlantic. This wasn't just a women's record. It was a monumental feat of aviation, matching Charles Lindbergh's achievement. She faced icy conditions and mechanical problems, landing in a farmer's field in Northern Ireland. But she did it. She was more than a pilot. She was a fashion icon, a writer, a public speaker, and a passionate advocate for women's rights. She encouraged women to pursue their dreams. No matter how unconventional, she once said, the most effective way to do it is to do it, and she lived by those words. By 1937, Amelia Earhart was one of the most famous women in the world, but she had one more monumental goal: to be the first woman to circumnavigate the globe by air, following a challenging equatorial route, roughly 29,000 miles. This wasn't just about being the first woman. It was about pushing the boundaries of aviation technology and human endurance. Her aircraft for this ambitious journey was a state-of-the-art, twin-engine Lockheed Electra 10E. It was specially modified with extra fuel tanks, filling much of the cabin space to enable long-distance flights over oceans. She wasn't alone on this leg of the journey. Accompanying her was Fred Noonan, a highly experienced navigator. Noonan had extensive experience in marine and aerial navigation, particularly over the Pacific, which was crucial for finding tiny island landing strips in the vast ocean. Their first attempt to fly west from Oakland, California, in March 1937 ended early with a crash during takeoff in Hawaii. The Electra was badly damaged, but Amelia was undeterred. After costly repairs, she decided to try again, this time flying eastward, partly because of changing global wind patterns. On June 1, 1937, Earhart and Noonan departed from Miami, Florida. They successfully flew across the Atlantic, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. By June 29th, they reached Lae, New Guinea. They had completed an astonishing 22,000 miles of their journey. Only 7,000 miles remained, but this last stretch was over the vast empty Pacific Ocean. Their next stop, Howland Island. Howland Island is a tiny, uninhabited coral island, barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide, a mere speck in the Pacific. Finding it would be an incredible navigational challenge, like finding a needle in a haystack, even for an expert like Noonan. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca was stationed near Howland Island, tasked with providing weather information, radio contact, and a radio direction-finding beam to help guide them in. On July 2, 1937, at 10 a.m. local time, midnight GMT, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan took off from Leh. The weather was reported as good. They estimated the flight to Howland Island would take about 18 to 20 hours. The Itasca began listening for Amelia's radio signals several hours before her estimated arrival. The communication was problematic from the start. Amelia was transmitting on several frequencies, but the Itasca had difficulty getting clear voice transmissions. Amelia reported receiving their signals, but seemed unable to hear their voice replies clearly, or perhaps her receiver wasn't functioning optimally. Throughout the early morning hours of July 2nd, Howland Island time, Amelia sent a series of radio messages. At 2:45 a.m., she reported cloudy and overcast. At 6:15 a.m., she reported being about 200 miles out. At 7:42 a.m., the Itasca received a relatively strong and clear message. "We must be on you, but cannot see you. But gas is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet. The ship replied, but it's unclear if Amelia heard them. At 7:58 a.m., Amelia reported she was circling. The most famous and perhaps most haunting transmission came at 8:43 a.m. Amelia broadcast, "We are on the line 157337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6210 kilocycles. Wait." This line of position indicated they believed they were flying along a specific navigational line that should have passed through Howland Island. She then added, "We are running on line north and south." This was the last confirmed voice transmission received from Amelia Earhart. The Itasca tried desperately to reply, sending signals, even using its oil burners to create a thick column of smoke, hoping she would see it. But there was only silence. The Electra, with Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan aboard, had vanished. As soon as it became clear that Amelia was missing, one of the largest and most expensive air and sea searches in American history was launched. President Franklin D. Roosevelt himself authorized the search. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard scoured an area of the Pacific roughly the size of Texas. The Itasca immediately began searching the waters north and west of Howland Island, based on Amelia's last transmissions. Aircraft from the USS Lexington, an aircraft carrier, joined the search, flying countless sorties. They searched for any sign of wreckage, oil slicks, or survivors. The search area was vast, the ocean deep, and Howland Island was surrounded by nothing but water for hundreds of miles in most directions. Despite the immense effort over 16 days, covering more than 250,000 square miles of ocean, not a single confirmed trace of Amelia, Noonan, or the Electra was found. Nothing. It was as if they had simply evaporated into the vastness of the sky and sea. On July 19, 1937, the official search was called off. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were declared lost at sea. But for the world, and for those dedicated to solving the mystery, the search had only just begun. So, what happened? Over the decades, numerous theories have emerged. Let's start with the most straightforward, and for a long time, the official explanation: the crash and sink theory. This theory posits that the Electra, running low on fuel and unable to locate Howland Island, simply ditched in the ocean, likely somewhere near the island. Due to a combination of factors, perhaps navigational errors, radio communication problems, fuel miscalculations, or pilot fatigue, they missed their tiny target. Supporting points for this theory: fuel. Amelia herself reported gas is running low. Long-distance flights were risky, and fuel margins were tight. Navigation. Finding Howland Island was incredibly difficult. Even a slight error in navigation over thousands of miles could mean missing it completely. Celestial navigation, which Noonan relied on, could be hampered by cloud cover, which Amelia reported. Radio issues. The documented problems with radio communication meant Amelia might not have received crucial directional guidance from the Itasca. The Itasca crew noted that Earhart seemed to have trouble with her direction-finding equipment or understanding how to use it effectively with their signals. Lack of wreckage. The Pacific Ocean is immensely deep around Howland Island. If the plane crashed and sank quickly, wreckage could be thousands of feet below the surface, making it incredibly difficult to find, especially with 1930s technology, and even today. For many years, this was the most widely accepted explanation. It's logical, doesn't require complex conspiracies, and aligns with the known dangers of such a flight. The official U.S. government position concluded that they ran out of fuel, crashed, and sank. However, the complete lack of any debris ever found has always troubled proponents and critics alike. Now, let's explore a theory that has gained significant traction and has been the subject of numerous expeditions. The Nikumaroro hypothesis, also known as the Gardner Island theory. Nikumaroro, formerly Gardner Island, is an uninhabited coral atoll about 350 nautical miles southeast of Howland Island. The International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, or TIGER, has been the primary proponent of this theory. The core idea: TIGER believes that Earhart and Noonan, unable to find Howland, spotted Nikumaroro's reef and attempted a landing. They might have survived the landing on the reef flat and lived for a short time as castaways. What's the evidence TIGER points to? Navigational line. Nikumaroro lies close to the 157-337 line of position Amelia reported in her last transmission. If they turned south along this line, they could have reached Nikumaroro. Post-loss radio signals. For several days after the disappearance, faint, garbled radio signals were picked up by various listeners across the Pacific and even in the U.S. that some believed could have been from Earhart transmitting with the Electra's radio on land. TIGER argues Nikumaroro is a plausible location for these signals. Artifacts. TIGER has conducted multiple expeditions to Nikumaroro and found various artifacts they believe could be linked to Earhart and Noonan. These include part of a woman's shoe, similar in style to what Amelia wore, a sextant box of a type used by Noonan, fragments of aluminum aircraft wreckage, some of which TIGER claims matches the Electra, a small glass jar consistent with a 1930s women's anti-freckle cream. Amelia was known to be conscious of her freckles. Most controversially, bones found on the island in 1940 were initially dismissed as male, but a re-examination of the measurements in 1998 by TIGER-affiliated anthropologists suggested they could be consistent with a female of European ancestry of Amelia's height. This finding is heavily debated. The Bevington Object, a grainy photograph taken by a British colonial officer on Nikumaroro in October 1937, 3 months after the disappearance, appears to show what might be aircraft landing gear sticking out of the water on the reef. The Nikumaroro theory is compelling because it offers a narrative of survival, however brief. It paints a picture of resourcefulness and a tragic end. However, it's important to note that none of the evidence is considered definitive proof by the wider scientific or historical community. Many artifacts are circumstantial, and alternative explanations exist. For example, the island was briefly inhabited by Pacific Islanders and later had a U.S. Coast Guard station, which could account for some findings. The debate over the bones and the photo continues to this day. Here's a curious detail about Nikumaroro. It's teeming with coconut crabs. These giant crabs are known to drag away and consume organic material. Some theorists even speculate they might have played a role in scattering or consuming any remains, making discovery harder. It's a slightly grim but fascinating part of the island's ecology. Beyond crashing at sea or landing on Nikumaroro, other theories persist, some more sensational than others. One of the most enduring is the Japanese capture theory. This theory suggests that Earhart and Noonan either accidentally strayed into Japanese-controlled territory in the Marshall Islands, north of Howland, or were on a secret U.S. government spying mission to photograph Japanese military installations. They were then captured by the Japanese, and her fate could have been imprisonment or even execution. At the time, tensions between the U.S. and Japan were rising, years before World War II officially began. Points often raised by proponents. Alleged witness accounts. Over the years, some individuals, particularly from the Marshall Islands or Saipan, another Japanese territory, claimed to have seen Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody or even their plane. Motive for secrecy. If they were spies, both the U.S. and Japanese governments would have had reasons to cover up the incident. However, this theory lacks strong, verifiable evidence. Many of the witness accounts are decades old, second-hand, or inconsistent. No official documents from U.S., Japanese, or any other archives have surfaced to substantiate a spy mission or capture. In 2017, a photograph purported to show Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody on Jaluit Atoll in the Marshalls was heavily promoted in a television documentary. However, it was quickly debunked when a Japanese military history blogger found the same photo in a Japanese-language book published in 1935, 2 years before Earhart's disappearance. There are even wilder theories, that she survived and lived under an assumed identity in the U.S., or that she was captured and forced to broadcast propaganda as Tokyo Rose, which is demonstrably false. These are largely considered fringe theories with no credible backing. It's human nature to want answers, especially for someone as iconic as Amelia. And when concrete proof is missing, speculation can thrive. So nearly 90 years later, why are we still so captivated by Amelia Earhart's disappearance? Firstly, it's the human element. Amelia was a trailblazer, an icon of courage and determination. Her story resonates because she dared to do what few had done before, especially as a woman in a man's world. Her disappearance at the peak of her fame, while undertaking her most ambitious flight, created a legend. Secondly, it's the nature of the unsolved puzzle. We love a good mystery. The lack of definitive answers allows for endless speculation and investigation. It engages our curiosity and our desire to piece together clues. Each new finding or reinterpretation of old evidence reignites the debate. Thirdly, it's a testament to the vastness and power of nature. The Pacific Ocean is immense. In 1937, without GPS, satellite imagery, or advanced sonar, finding a tiny island was a monumental task, and finding a lost plane even harder. Her disappearance reminds us of the challenges faced by early aviators and the limits of technology at the time. The search for Amelia Earhart also pushes the boundaries of forensic science and historical investigation. Groups like TIGAR employ archaeologists, anthropologists, aviation experts, and deep-sea explorers. They use modern technology to analyze old evidence and search remote locations. This dedication to solving a historical puzzle is in itself inspiring. But perhaps the most important part of her legacy isn't the mystery of her death, but the inspiration of her life. Amelia Earhart showed the world that barriers are meant to be broken, that dreams are worth chasing, no matter how high they seem. She encouraged women to step out of traditional roles and pursue their passions. She once wrote, "Please know I am quite aware of the hazards. I want to do it because I want to do it. Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others." So what truly happened to Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan near Howland Island in July 1937? The truth is, we still don't know for certain. The crash and sink theory remains the simplest and, for many, the most probable. The Nikumaroro hypothesis offers a compelling alternative, backed by tantalizing but not yet conclusive evidence. Other theories, while popular in some circles, lack credible support. Amelia Earhart's final flight ended in an unanswered call, a mystery that echoes through history. But her voice, Her spirit of adventure and her determination to fly against the odds continue to inspire millions around the world. She remains a symbol of courage, exploration, and the enduring human quest to reach for the stars, or in her case, the endless horizon. What do you think happened to Amelia Earhart? Do you lean towards one theory over another? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on Timeless Knowledge Discoveries. We hope you found this journey into the life and disappearance of Amelia Earhart as fascinating as we did. If you enjoyed this episode, please show your support by hitting that like button. Subscribe to Timeless Knowledge Discoveries for more journeys into history's captivating stories and fun facts. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering. I'm Noah Lobby, and this has been Timeless Knowledge Discoveries.